Welcome back again to the Camp Shioka podcast with your host, Josh Stream. My guest today, as always special. This one today specifically has been here in her own words since she was wee and constantly writes on her hands. Welcome, Marybeth.
Hello.
Hi, Marybeth. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you.
So, as always, with every guest here on the podcast, since we don't get to talk much besides stuff about camp, I'd always like to know about information outside of camp. So, like hometown, college major, that kind of stuff. So feel free to, let me know. Let the people know.
I'm from Monroe, Louisiana, which is like 15, 20, 30 minutes away from here.
Yep.
I grew up out at camp, and I am a education major at Louisiana Tech, elementary ed.
Gotcha. How many more years do you have?
This will be my second year this fall.
Okay. So then.
So it's a 4-year degree, but my 4th year is teaching. So
2
years of school left.
Gotcha. And you plan to teach with that, or is there like?
Yes.
Okay. Because I have some teaching friends who are like, I'm gonna get my degree and then I'm gonna go do something that's not that. And
preferably in a Christian environment, like a Christian
setting.
School, like that kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay. So like I said in the intro, you've been here since you were wee.
Yes.
What is that like? Expound on that, because you told me that, and I'm like, I think I know what that means, but for you, it's been a whole lifetime.
Okay. I've been here since I was like 5 or 6.
Okay. Here at camp.
Yes, at camp.
Yep.
2011, 2012, I think was my first year.
Mm-hmm.
Started as a day camper, and worked my way up all the way to senior staff. I did day camp. I was a junior camper. I was middle school. I was high school. I was junior staff, and now I'm real staff. So. Gotcha.
And do you have a favorite of all of the ones, or do you?
I think they each have like their own like beauty in them.
Okay. Beauty, huh?
Or like aspects too.
Yeah, I knew what you meant, but it's
appreciate.
Yeah.
I really liked my years as a high school camper, but I think senior staff is probably my favorite so far.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've been poured into, and now I can pour out.
Yeah, absolutely. You kind of get to see like behind the scenes.
Yeah, because even as a junior counselor, like you don't understand how much preparation and teaching and all the background things of like the things that I never knew were happening as a camper. I now know like, hey, there's like a strict schedule. Like they have so many set things that like you just never see as a camper.
Yeah, right. And then you have a kid that's like, I don't wanna, and it's like, well, we planned it for like months, so do it or don't. Like, yeah. It's like why people get like immediately frustrated, or counselors get immediately frustrated at that. So for those of you that are curious, people are playing Dragon Tales outside in the pavilion. So we're just trying to make it work.
A camp favorite.
Yeah,
I love
right.
Dragon Tales.
It's true. A camp favorite.
It
Everybody
is.
talks about Dragon Tales. Everybody loves it. And I actually, Dragon Tales for me was like, I didn't know. I think I played it when I was super young and loved it, and then completely forgot about it until I came here. Yeah. Since it was like Dragon Tales, I'm like, oh, interesting.
I've only played it out here.
Really? And then I saw some people play it, and I had that like Ratatouille, like, it was like, oh my
like
gosh.
flashback.
Yeah, I was like, Dragon Tales.
Yes,
oh my
absolutely.
goodness. Wasn't just a show on PBS. It was a game that we played.
Oh, that was a good show.
It was interesting, but that's not.
I feel like that's like a core memory that's like floating around.
Yeah, just in there. Dragon Tales. I could name every single cast member. I still remember it. I'm not going to, because that's not what this podcast is about.
That's wild. I cannot remember.
It's just I have an encyclopedic memory, and so I'm just like, oh, this thing.
No,
but only about
cool.
like weird, dumb stuff that doesn't
matter.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna ever need to defuse a bomb by like naming like Zach Ordweezy. Like it doesn't help. Anyway, those are characters in Dragon Tales.
Yeah, I figured that out. But I was thinking which ones were which.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Ord is the big. I'm not doing this.
Ord is the big one.
Yeah, Ord is the big one. Anyway.
Yep.
Moving on.
Wheezy was my favorite. In case anyone was curious.
Wheezy. She's annoying. This is not what we're supposed to be talking about. So back on track. So your staff now. What was that like? What was the hiring process like? Like who did you talk to, and where? How long did it take, or were they just immediately like, oh, she's been here, like
Kind of a mix of both. So I had started typing out my application in the fall, I think October, but I knew everything had said you have to be 18 to apply, and I was just wait, I'm not 18, so I can't apply yet. So literally maybe a week before my birthday, of my 18th birthday, I'd like text Miss Carrie and I'm like, hey, like, do I need to go ahead and submit it? Like, are y'all still hiring? Like, is it too late? Because like the last thing posted on Instagram about applying for staff was like August. And so I was like, are they even still hiring? Text her. She was like, do it as soon as possible. We're doing the last bit of our phone call interviews this week. And I had, like, from looking at the application process on the website, it had said that it was like a 3-step process of a phone call, and then if you get called back, it's it's the paper part, and then it's phone call, and then it's in person. And so I did all the paper part. I turned it in. I then had a phone call that was from Miss Carrie's number, but then two Mama and John Luke were sitting in on it. John Luke was on another call too, so he wasn't really listening. He was just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And then he just connected in the middle of it. We were like, oh, I guess he heard all I needed to hear.
Yeah.
But like literally in that first phone call, they were like, basically told me where I would be placed this summer was overnight most of the time, and then also day camp whenever it was the older kids.
Yeah.
And so like they basically told me like, you'll be hired, but like we can't tell you that yet, but like you're hired.
Yeah.
And then I had asked them like, hey, like what about that in person? Like what do I need to wear to that? And they're like, no, we know you. You're good.
Yeah.
They said that like that's normally for just like people that they've never met before. That kind of thing. So they were like basically told me like, we'll tell you in a week or two, but like you're basically hired.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Yeah, that's super cool. So then like there wasn't really any time in between. It sounds like it was just like, yeah, you're hired. Like, yeah, we know you.
Yeah. I mean, I was like very anxious about it though, because I was like, what am I going to do like without camp in the summer?
Yeah.
That just seems like such a weird concept to me of like, what would I be doing?
Yeah. No summer camp. How did you just kind of like sit with those feelings, or is there a way that you like worked through it? Because you knew you'd be here, but like,
yeah,
I guess,
kind of just like reminding myself that like the Lord is going to place me wherever he wants to place me, and his plan is his plan. And like literally on my hand right now it says not my plans of like, I'm so serious. It says not my plans of like my plan might not always work out, but it'll always work out for good, and he has one that's even bigger and more spectacular than I could orchestrate myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Amen.
Just reminding myself of his plan, and that whatever happens, and even if I wasn't at camp, I would find ways to pour into people and be poured into.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, being here at camp for as long as you've been here, having experienced it as a camper and now a staff, how would you say the Lord has used camp to like shape your life, having been here as long as you have?
I would say like, especially in like the beginning, it was just like planting the seeds, that kind of thing, like just giving me the information that I needed. And then since it's only like during the summer, like sometimes I would drift away from my faith or not be as strong and kind of like in a shaky place. And just like to be able to remind myself of like the things that I had learned here was something that was really helpful for me. Or to have that community outside of camp, like that was built here, was really cool. And then just like once I got older, it was truly like camp was a place that taught me how to ask the hard questions, and like it's okay to have the questions, and taught me how to hear other people's opinion in a respectful way of like, hey, we can agree to disagree, but I would love to hear what you think, kind of thing. But like camp really was just a place where I learned a lot, but also it just is a place that's so welcoming and loving. I love that it has been said, like, camp is the closest you'll get to heaven. Like, that, I think it was John Luke that said that a few weeks ago, but also my camper had said that during high school, too, this year. She was like, this is the place that, like, I felt the presence of God in heaven the most is, like,
wow.
She said that everyone was so welcoming and loving, and you're able to have just such Christian-focused conversations. And, like, truly, I think that even in the hard moments out here, that to be able to have so many good moments outweigh that. I don't know.
Gotcha. So with all of your time that you have at camp, would you say that it's, regardless of the changing of the teachers and maybe some of the curriculum, do you think like the mission statement or like the purpose of camp has stayed relatively the same? Yeah. Like from an evangelistic, like planting the seed perspective in the lives of these kids and high schoolers?
I would say absolutely. I think the approach has changed in some ways of, and just like strict rules of the way that we do things out here. For a while it was never said, but it was expected of you have to worship a certain way and that kind of thing. Or like not expected, but like it was just everybody stood. And we only had a cappella worship, and to have instrumental now and a cappella, I think there's beauty in the both of those. But like to see now in the past, like, I don't know, like 5 years-ish, like everyone worships how they feel comfortable. And I think that's a really beautiful thing that like we have also like tried to promote, I guess, is like, with prayer night, we do certain things that like are inviting people to worship how they want to worship, and to take some of that expectation of you have to pray a certain way and you have to worship a certain way and you have to read the Bible a certain way, like to just have everybody working on their faith in a way that works best for them, but also just like the staff has changed a lot, just people getting older and getting big boy and big girl jobs. Like, there are still a lot of counselors that will visit out here that were past staff. And, like, I can still think of now as going into my sophomore year of college, my 8th grade summer camp counselor out here still texts in a group chat with all of our cabin every single day. Wow. Which was a hot minute ago. Yeah. But, like, literally every day she texts us. And so to, like, still have those people, even though they're not physically here, is still a very beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely been, having interviewed multiple people who've been around here a while, that's like a community is like one of the biggest things out here. Yeah. So how much has camp changed like physically? Because I'm new here. And so like, I'm like,
I actually had this conversation today.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So the gym, well, actually, first of all of camp had no air conditioning.
Okay.
So Louisiana, like 110 degree heat some days.
Surface of the sun.
Yeah, very hot. Very stuffy. No AC. The gym has been fully renovated. We used to have what we call the cheese grater, which is now the floor in the pavilion. So we had different floor in the gym. We had no AC. Like the garage doors weren't there. It was like all screen windows in the mess hall. The pavilion used to be a tennis court, so it still has the original concrete up under it.
Yeah.
But it used to be a tennis court that had gate around it. By Lakeside, there used to be no bridge across. There used to be no floating dock.
Okay.
Out by the field, there was still that monkey bar area, but it was not a ninja course. And it was covered by vines and was like an archway kind of thing.
Okay. Wow. Jeez.
By where the kickball is, there used to be like a fence kind of thing up, which is still there, but it's kind of old and ratchet now.
Yeah.
Let's see. Girls Village had no walkway, so it was just dirt and rocks and roots, and was really hard to get luggage down.
Yeah, I bet.
The bridge to Girls Village was like pointed like a mountain, and so you had to like walk up the little bridge and then down the little bridge, and then you were just on dirt the whole way.
Okay.
All of Girls Bathhouse has been renovated pretty much. We used to have 2 separate shower rooms, and now we have a giant one that has very nice showers. They get hot. It's great. I'm trying to think what else. All of Girls Village has AC now. There's the pink house used to actually be pink.
Okay.
And that used to be where I believe it was Miss Carrie and her kids, and then eventually it was Miss Lindy Loveland and her kids. Lived in that.
Wow.
I think that's most of the renovations. But we've got a lot
that
we've done.
That's nuts.
To see it change so much but stay the same.
Yep.
Is also very, very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's like returning to your hometown after a while. Yeah. Like it's the same thing.
Well, it's just very gradual too. Of like.
Yeah.
You notice, but it was just like, oh, okay. And then now, like thinking back, I'm like, whoa, that was so different.
Yep. Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, and then there was a playground. There was no front office. Okay. And then there was a playground kind of over by the area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Gotcha. A lot of changes over the years.
I'm very thankful for those changes.
Yeah. Especially air conditioning.
Yeah, air conditioning. That's a great one.
Yeah. So what are some of the themes that have been? That's something that I haven't heard about at all. I've only ever heard about Victory in Christ, which is this one. Like this summer. So like, what are some in the past? Like wisdom was one of them.
Yeah, wisdom was last year. So that was 23. Mm-hmm. Victory in Jesus is 24. Party of the year was either 21 or 22. I missed those 2 years because I was in a wheelchair. I had knee surgery. And then there was Big God Bare Feet. I remember.
What does that one entail?
I think it was like talking about like that was like my first year. So,
okay.
I think it was like
Big God Bare Feet.
Big God Bare Feet. It was like talking about, I believe like holy ground, right? Yeah. But like just talking about like Jesus's ministry and washing people's feet.
Yeah.
Like and how he was like a servant in that matter. There was iGod at one point, which was like iPod something technology. I don't really remember. I was like 5.
Yeah. I've seen a shirt of that.
There was the Olympic year. I don't remember what the
year.
Or it was 2020.
Okay.
Which was also COVID year, which was a very interesting year at camp. We had bandanas as masks.
Yeah.
In the hot heat. We had a lot of hand sanitizer, a lot of outside time because of social distancing.
Yep.
Nobody could sleep at camp except for staff. It's an interesting year.
Yeah, to say the least. My ears perk up at Olympic year because I'm like, we just have like Olympic night or whatever.
Yeah, well, like that year it was like the theme was Olympics. It was a gray shirt. I thought of another one, but now I forgot it.
Okay.
We had a purple shirt at one point. We had a red one. Like I can picture the shirts.
Yeah.
I just there was a winter retreat where it was like run with endurance. The race that he set before us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I mean
we've had so many. It's
yeah. That's so interesting. But they all sound very like intentional about like, hey, gospel somehow. Like that's so cool.
And it also ties in like teaching stories.
Yeah, tell stories. Gotcha. So then as like the final conclusion of this wonderful conversation, what would you say to like aspiring staff? Because you never know who could be listening 5-10 years from now. True. That hear like maybe they went to camp or right. Like some of these day campers are like, I want to go to Camp Shioka. I'm gonna listen to Camp Shioka podcast. Like what would you say to future aspiring staff, wherever they may be coming from, if and how they should apply or uphold themselves, that sort of thing?
Yeah. I would say like self-preparation is key in the sense of in those 2 years that I was not able to come to camp, I was reading through Proverbs, just like literally reading my word every single day, getting into it. Like just consistency of, I knew like, hey, if I'm going to be out at camp, I need to fill myself and be knowledgeable about things, to be able to, pour out. Like I can only teach so much if I only know so much. And so to like still work on myself and my faith, was probably one of the biggest things of just preparing for the season to come, even if I didn't know if it ever would. And then also just like it really does take a heart of patience and endurance and whatever else. It's not always easy. It's hot summers. It's a a lot of hard conversations. But also to know, like, how much of an eternal difference you're making, I feel like makes it all worth it. But to, like, have that purpose and that goal in mind, I feel like is the most important thing, because I feel like in the, like, later weeks of the summer, that thought can get lost of, like, oh, I just want to go home, I just want to take a nap, that kind of thing of, like, hey, I have 3 weeks left, like, let me work as hard as I possibly can to make an eternal difference, because at the end of the day, they get 1 week of camp, maybe a few, but, like, they only get a season of camp. They don't get year-round of camp. Like, some kids, like me, wait all year for camp, and it's only a week. And so to pour in as much as you possibly can before that time's up.
Yeah.
I don't know what other advice I would have.
Yeah, I mean, that's all good. It's all good stuff.
Bring a water bottle. You need lots of water.
A lot of water bottles. Stay hydrated.
Bring a waterproof watch.
Sunscreen.
A fan, maybe.
Fan would be good too.
Especially if you're a guy without AC.
Yeah. I think those were all on the packing list for counselors. But
an alarm clock. That is not on the list. You need an alarm clock.
Alarm clock. Bring an alarm clock.
Preferably one that can be silent.
What's the point of a silent alarm clock?
Mine like shakes under my pillow, and then it doesn't wake up the whole cabin. How considerate of me.
I suppose. That seems
to hear 50 alarm clocks going off in the morning.
Yeah.
It really tests my patience. But this is the day the Lord has made. Amen. Let us rejoice and be glad in it, even if you hear 50 alarm clocks.
Yeah, in the morning when you're just trying to sleep.
I remind myself of that a lot.
Gotcha. Good. Beautiful conversation, as always. It was a pleasure having you on the podcast.
Thank you.
And it was a pleasure hosting the podcast for all of you out there in computer land. So for
iPhone land.
Huh?
iPhone land.
iPhone, or whatever. Computer land, internet land. Either way. Phil Robertson says computer land, and so I say computer land.
Interesting.
But all that to say, it's been a pleasure, and hopefully someday we'll see you out here in the Pines and Oaks. Say goodbye, Marybeth.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Toodles.
See you later.